Tonight, we reflect on the story of the birth of a young boy. He was born into political unrest and upheaval. The Jewish people were subject to persecution. The circumstances of his birth were curious, exciting, and even fear-provoking. In a moment of fear, his family, fearing for his well-being, hid him in straw. And he grew up to be a rabbi. I'm speaking, of course, about Moses. Moses, who was born in a time when our people, as Rabbi Levin shared before, really were in a very, very dark place. Pharaoh was cracking the whip of oppression upon us, and his mother and his sister hid him in the basket and sent him up the river. And we refer to him in our tradition as Moshe Rabbeinu, as Moses, our rabbi. And on this evening, as we reflect upon the experience of being part of a minority, there was perhaps no one in the history of our people who understood that experience better than Moses. Because in every community he was in, including our own, Moses at many times felt like he was a minority. Being raised in Pharaoh's home, he came to realize that he was not of Egyptian birth. He was different than his brother, different than his family, and ultimately decided to leave the palace. But he wasn't entirely welcomed into our people either. If we think of the story of Moses and the taskmaster, it was Israelites who questioned Moses' sense of ethic and his responsibility, whether or not he really was of us. He went out to the desert. He met Jethro and became part of Jethro, the priest of Midian's clan, marrying his daughter. And that decision later on was called into question by none other than his brother and sister, who wondered, Moses, are you really doing right by us by marrying that woman? Moses went through his entire life leading our people out of Egypt from bondage to freedom as a minority. My teacher, Rabbi Shai Held, wrote that one of the things that allowed Moses to be successful in his journey is that in every spot along the way, he sought to find the gratitude that he needed to guide him in that moment. And that his journey was somewhat circuitous, going from Israelite community to Egyptian community and back to Israelites and out and back, to make sure that he really was able to develop a depth of appreciation for all that was laid before him. And that for someone like Pharaoh, who was born into royalty, who had everything at his disposal and all of the power he could possibly ever want to yield, one thing that Pharaoh was never able to develop was a sense of gratitude for all that he had. Not that we should be forgiving, we don't need to be. When I think about what our experience has been as Americans and as Jews in our generations, as I look around the sanctuary tonight, I see 2, 3, maybe even a 4th back there, generations. I think about what our people's journey in this country has been in the lifetimes of those who are gathered with us tonight. There have been times of struggle and difficulty, even in the last couple of years. And yet the trajectory of the American Jewish experience is one that has continued, for the most part, to improve and improve and improve. From the 40s to the 60s to the 80s to the 2000s, and now as we are firmly ensconced in the 2020s, I think about all of the benefits that being a Jew in this time and in this place has been, benefits that have not befallen our people in generations or places before. And as wonderful as everything is so often for our people, I'm reminded that we are but 2%. In that same conversation I talked about a moment ago with Yossi Klein Halevi, he was reflecting on the fact that in Israel, you've got 20% of the population who is not Jewish. And yet, the relationship between Israelis, Jewish Israelis, and holidays like Christmas is in some ways not nearly as comfortable as the relationship between our neighbors and our own tradition. For example, anyone who has children in Palm Beach County schools will know that Palm Beach County schools are closed on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. In Israel, even though 20% of the population is of a different faith tradition, a good number of which celebrate Christmas and Easter as holidays, those are days when the people who are there either have to go to work or take a vacation day if they are celebrating those holidays. The country, the Jewish country of Israel, has yet to find its comfort in making a place for its minorities in ways that Jews in America have been able to ask for and command a sense of comfort from our neighbors here. Now, there is no perfect solution for these situations, and the realities in South Palm Beach County are not the same as the realities in Des Moines, Iowa, or Cheyenne, Wyoming, maybe more similar to Los Angeles, California. But the dynamics there are different in every single place. But as I think about what the story of Moses teaches us, of going through hither and yon to find his sense of security as a minority, to be a person to lead a minority out of bondage and into the freedom that we celebrate each week on Shabbat. The message that Moses sought opportunities to show our gratitude. I think our experience as a minority in this country should teach us that when we have good reason to be grateful for the cooperation, for the understanding, for the warmth and welcome of our neighbors, that we should do our best to show our gratitude for that, to all of its sources, to our neighbors, to each other for helping to build that, and to the Holy One for putting us in this place. And I'm inspired by the story of Moses to say that whatever we have accomplished, because as his story came to an end at the end of the book of Deuteronomy, there was much, much more to be done. As much as we have accomplished as a people and as a minority in this country, when I think about where we'll be when the youngest generation here tonight is the oldest of the four in a room, hopefully much like this one, in 60 or 70 or 80 years from now, that they can say of our generation how good they had it and how much better we have it now. Shabbat Shalom.